Welcome everyone, my name is Rigel, and welcome to another episode of Rigel's Random Reports. And I regret to inform you, this is still not random because I am still recording this at the end of March, which means that these are coming out once a month still. But such is life. I did want to record it earlier, but there were still things happening as of the last few days, so there we are. In any case, this is probably not coming out in March. I will try, but I've got a video to post before this one. It's going to be the um, Eurovision 2024 Grand Final Televote reaction that I recorded. At the grand final. That one's having some difficulty rendering right now, but the plan right now is to post that and then wait maybe a few days before I post this. So this is probably going out sometime in early April, which is fine because there's not a lot of news between now and then, I would say. This is the last major episode of Rigel's Random Reports that will really talk about like the song selection and things like that because we've now got all of the songs. This is gonna be the last episode where we talk about that, but we will talk about other things like the odds and vocal performances at the pre-parties and whatnot. But for now, like I said, this is the last episode where I'm really going to go over the song selection process because it ended, in the middle of this month. So, that's about that. And that is about it really for the intro. So with that said, let's jump right into the basic information of the contest. Alright, very little of this is new, so let's just get through this pretty quickly. The host country is Switzerland, the host city is Basel, or Basel if you will. The host arena is going to be a St. Jakobshalle. The presenters or hosts are going to be Hazel Brugger, Sandra Stüder, and Michelle Hunziker. And despite the permanent slogan, there is kind of a de facto slogan called Welcome Home, obviously referencing the fact that the first ever Eurovision was hosted in Switzerland. But there is a little bit of news coming out of March, I would say. The first one is the Green Room. According to the stage designer Florian Vida, he says that, quote, the Green Room will be in the arena in a way you will not expect. So, I'm not really sure what that means. It might be behind the stage. Some people have jokingly suggested it's going to be in the air, or it's going to be under the stage or something like that. I don't really know. No one really knows for sure, but I'm sure as we get closer to the contest, we will get to know better about how this stage is supposed to work in relation to the Green Room, and there is some further organizational changes, but we'll get to that when we get to the what else happened since section. And speaking of which, what happened since the last time I made an episode of Rigel's Random Reports? Well, that is the question I'm going to be asking for the last time this season, because the next episode I make, if there even is a next episode, there's just not going to be that many events to cover, and it's mostly pre-parties, which are far too complicated to be covering in a news video of everything. So there's probably not going to be this segment in the next episode. I'm just going to be covering things that relate to Eurovision as we approach the contest, of course. But for now, this is a section of what happened since, where we cover basically, what happened since the last episode that I recorded. I'm talking in circles already. So let's get into it. Let's start with Pesma za Euroviziju, which is the Serbian national selection, and this year the whole selection is mired with controversy. ESC Gabe did a really good video on it, and also Stuart McLean as well, as I already talked about earlier. They discussed some of the favorites for the national final, but actually none of them won. The actual winner was Prince of all people, which was interesting because I believe a year or two ago, Prince was actually one of the favorites in the selection, but he didn't win. But this time he came back with a considerably more boring song, but one with that instead because of the mixed system, essentially. there's several juries or jurors voting in the final as well as the televote. But it was interesting because neither the Prince or anyone in the top three actually won the televote. The televote was actually won by Boyana and David, to the point where once people saw the actual results, someone suggested that they might have actually bought the votes. But yeah, they did win the televote, Boyana and David, but it didn't really get anything in the jury at all. So in the end, calculating all the aggregates, it was actually Prince who won the actual national selection. What was interesting actually is that afterwards, like I said, the broadcaster published the whole voting breakdown essentially, and harem girls were actually really popular and they came second in the televote. And if they had won the televote, actually, they would have been going to Eurovision rather than Prince. And it would be a very powerful statement, I think, because I think I mentioned this in the last episode, but Harem Girls are actually a drag act. Basically, I think it's 6 drag queens, all singing in Serbian, and it would have been a very powerful statement for a country as what we think of as more socially conservative as Serbia to be sending a drag act to Eurovision. But no, they didn't win it. Boyana and David actually won the televote, and so in the aggregate, considering all of the votes from the televote and the jury, it was actually Prince who won the national final. I also talked about Vukela in the previous video about Pesmaza Reviziu. She was one of the favorites for sure, and she actually ended up third place, so that's not bad at all, but it was nowhere near winning. And Turbo Jurka, you might remember that as well. I think that came fifth. The staging was just very underwhelming, but yeah, in any case, Prince won. He will be going to Eurovision for Serbia. He's already himself mired in several layers of controversies, not least allegations of pedophilia. But yeah, no one's really expecting Serbia to qualify. His song is just not interesting enough for that. But I think we'll talk about that once we get into the running order, which we'll get to in a minute. But yeah, that is Pesmaza Reviziu. The winner was Prince, and no one's really expecting Serbia to qualify for the final. But we'll see what happens. Moving on, we go to DMGP for Denmark, and yeah, there's really not much to say. Sisal was the favorite start to finish, and she won. The end. People have made many criticisms about her staging, and she has said that the staging will be completely different for Eurovision, which is good. I saw that the Twitter user Yesi Bruno has actually suggested something quite similar to what Lights Off had at Eurovision 2022. Lights Off for Czechia, and that had a big lighting moment as well at the drop. And Bruno suggested that Hallucination could have something like that as well, because for some reason Bruno is really obsessed with Hallucination. But yeah, in any case, Sisal was the favorite from the start, and Sisal won, unsurprisingly. She's a really, really good vocalist, and I don't think we should gloss over that. She is really good at hitting the notes that she needs to hit, especially the high notes, and a really good vocal range as well. But the song is a little bit, stereotypical 2000s or maybe early 2010s Eurodancey. So yeah, we'll have to see what happens. But Sisal was the favorite from start to finish, and she won. And I think Tim Shu came second. Tim Shu, I believe, won the televote in the super final, but actually the jury rated Sisal higher, and so because of that, Sisal won the national final overall and will be going to Eurovision on behalf of Denmark. Interestingly, I believe this is the second time in 3 years that Denmark has sent someone from the Faroe Islands, or the Faroes, you could say, to Eurovision, because you might remember in 2023, the guy, I cannot remember his name, but the guy that simultaneously looked like he was 17 and 37, with his kind of house prop thing. He was Faroese, and Seesaw is also Faroese, but yeah, it's interesting how they keep end up sending Faroese singers to Eurovision, and maybe one of these days we'll see the Pharaohs actually debut in Eurovision. We just have to see whether that happens or not. But yeah, it's just a little interesting factoid for you there. But yeah, that is Denmark. Moving on to Germany, we of course had Chefsache EST, and in the last episode I mentioned basically two big names who could win it for Germany and still do decently well. The first one was Feuerschwanz, and the other was Abo und Tina, or Tuna, I'm not really sure. But yeah, actually, in the end, Feuerschwanz didn't even make the super final that they suddenly invented out of nowhere. But Abu and Tina actually did make it to the super final, and in the end, they actually won the televote as well. They came first in the televote because it was televote only, but they weren't too far off from second place. I believe, looking at the split, I think they got like 43% of the televote, and the second place got 40%. So yeah, it was actually not as comfortable of a win as some would have expected. But since then, the song has gone pretty viral. I think, from my perspective personally, it seems the most like something that actual Germans would listen to on the regular, because looking at the language in the song and also in the other songs of Abo und Tuna, a lot of it is not really in quote unquote standard German. It's really using more street slang. Even the name of the song, Bala, is actually slang in German. It's got a standard definition, but it's using the slang definition here, which means to hit something or to explode something, I believe. So it uses a lot of slang in the lyrics, and I think for that reason, it seems more like something that actual Germans would listen to. But speaking of German, it's interesting because Abo und Tuna are not German. They are Austrian. They were born and raised in Vienna. What's even more interesting about that is that their father is Hungarian, and from there they've actually inherited some of that, and some of their songs actually have Hungarian lyrics in them. For example, I've talked about this before probably, but Vinnetou is another song from Abo und Tuna, and that song has an entire verse that's in Hungarian, and also in the chorus, or I guess the post-chorus, there's the word that's constantly repeated is babam, which means my baby, basically, and that's actually a word in Hungarian that's being repeated a lot. And so, yeah, sometimes they sing in Hungarian, and I think a lot of Hungarians are actually more cognizant of this, I guess. And so, yeah, it's interesting. Hungarian speaking Austrians are representing Germany in Eurovision 2025. Ain't that a story? So, yeah, that's Germany. Moving on to Croatia, we also had some pretty interesting results, I would say. I think most people were both figuratively and literally banking on either Magazine or Ogenj to win, but in the end, that just didn't come true at all. It was actually Marko Bošnjak who won. It is interesting as well. If you look at the name Bošnjak, that literally means Bosniak. It means someone from Bosnia. So actually, in this case, Marko is representing not just Croatia but also Bosnia and Herzegovina in the contest. So that's really interesting. And I think some of you might remember from 2 years ago or 3 years ago, he was already in Dora with a ballad called Molizanas, and I think a lot of people would say they preferred that over the song that he brought this time, which was quite drastically different. I forgot to talk about Leylek as well, which was kind of the Eurofan fan favorite. It was a song that was kind of in the spirit of Harmonia Dissonante. In that it's like six women singing a kind of more traditional Slavic rhythm, I guess, whatever that means. But in this case, the song was actually in English, which was quite disappointing. But I would say like a few days before the contest, the final of Dora, rather, they posted a Croatian version. And in the final, what they actually did was they sang most of the song in English, but the last chorus was sung in Croatian, and that had a pretty visible impact. You can hear a lot of cheering in the arena, I would say, but in the end, it was too little too late, I would say. Um, they still ended up with a decent result. They came fourth, I think, but in the end, it wasn't enough for them to really kind of get to the win. So in the end, it was Marko Bosniak who actually won the national final Dora and will be representing Croatia with his song called Poison Cake, which sounds kind of weird, and it is kind of weird if I'm being honest. It's again very different from his Molizanas ballad. I would say it's kind of a Balkan ballad, but yeah, it's definitely not a ballad. I don't even know how to really describe it, but it yeah, I don't know. You just have to listen to it. Really, it's interesting for sure, but its chances of qualification aren't so solid. So yeah, that is Croatia. We'll be having Marko Bosniak for Croatia with the song Poison Cake. Let's move on to the host country, of course, which is Switzerland. They are sending Zoe May with the song Voyage. I say that deliberately in French because the song is in French. By the way, I still don't know how to pronounce the second word of the artist name. I don't know if it's Zoe May or Zoe Me, but yeah. Moving on, the song is called Voyage, is in French, and the news, the kind of internal news, is that this was already in the selection last year or even 2 years ago, but I think they probably thought that being a more jury-oriented song, it probably wouldn't stand much of a chance in the semifinals, which are only televote. So they decided this year they don't need to qualify, so they can send something that's a little more jury-friendly, and that's exactly what they did. And I'll be honest, I love this song, and I hope it does well. I hope it doesn't pull a Portugal 2018. I'd rather it pull a Portugal 2017, but that's probably not going to happen. But it's still a really, really pretty song, and I hope, like I said, it doesn't pull an Ujardin, and it doesn't just fall to the bottom of the ranking because if it's a slower song. Although we will come back to the song later, because well, we'll talk about it when we get to that section. But yeah, that is the Swiss artist with her song Voyage, Zoe Me, Zoe Me. I'm not really sure how to pronounce it, but let's move on from that to another internally selected artist, which was JJ for Austria. He will be singing the song Wasted Love, which was co-written by Taya from Taya and Selena, also of Austria Eurovision fame. And yeah, it's a song that's popular. I don't know how, but some people are still somehow comparing this to Nemo and The Code, even though the two songs are just nothing alike at all. This is more just traditional opera. You know, you've got a verse, a chorus, a verse, a chorus, and then a thing at the end. And yeah, it's interesting because in the last sort of 30 seconds or so, it goes from kind of more slower opera type instrumentals to kind of an electronic beat, which is interesting. And then the music video is super intense as well. He's like floating in some sort of opera house, and we'll have to see how they kind of reenact that on stage, if they do at all. And this year, speaking of on stage and with Austria, we're actually in kind of good hands, because instead of having Marvin Dietmann, who historically has been rather disappointing for Austria, even though he is himself Austrian, we're actually going to be having the stage director Sergio Hayen. If that name sounds familiar, that's because he did the performance for Ireland last year with Doomsday Blue, and after that became a massive success, he was hired for the entirety of UMK, the Finnish selection, and then after that he was also hired for Cyprus, which we'll get onto later, and also he was hired for Austria as well. So this man is booked and busy for Eurovision 2025, which we love to see it. So yeah, this year for Austria, the stage director will actually be Sergio Hayen, because they didn't want to have Marvin Demon anymore, even though Marvin Demon will still be working for some other countries, but not his home country of Austria. So moving on, we had the artist reveal from the UK. Now, for a long time, we had no idea what was going on, but I would say starting in kind of early February, I want to say, we started getting rumors that this trio, this country trio, try saying that 10 times fast, called Remember Monday, were selected for representing the UK in Eurovision 2025, and this was confirmed on the same day the Czech song was released. It was announced that Remember Monday will be representing the UK with the song called What the Hell Just Happened, which is a really interesting song, I want to say. It's got way too many tempo changes, I think, and the chorus, ironically, is slower than the pre-chorus and the verse. So it's a really interesting song, and it's very easily polarizing. Like, I know two people who have done rankings of Eurovision 2025, and one of them has it as their winner, and the other has it like just above their really terrible songs, kind of like in the bottom 6 or 7 or something like that. So yeah, this can be really polarizing, but it's definitely an interesting song, and you can tell that this was written by theater kids. So yeah, that's all I'm gonna say on the matter. I have it in my rankings somewhere. I'll have to go check, but I'm not sure if I'm gonna make a ranking video this year. We just have to see whether my schedule works out for that kind of stuff. But yeah, that is the UK. They are being represented by the country trio Remember Monday with the song What the Hell Just Happened. Lyrically, I would say is very similar, like in terms of semantic content, to Last Friday Night by Katy Perry. So that's kind of the lyrical content, but the song itself is very, very different. You just have to listen to it to see whether you like it or not. So with that said, let's move on to Czechia, who are of course being represented by Adonis. And Adonis will be singing the song Kiss Kiss Goodbye. Now, this is not a surprise. The song itself was performed kind of semi-acoustically at the Maltese national final, and then shortly after that, it was revealed that the song is called Kiss Kiss Goodbye, but the song in its entirety was only posted on the 8th of March, and it got some mixed reactions, let's just say. Similarly to Wasted Love, I would say there's one part in there that really, on surface analysis, doesn't fit with the rest of the song. But I've listened to it for quite a few more times now, and I've actually come to the conclusion that without it, it would probably be too boring. So yeah, it really depends on the person. Some people are surprised by it in a negative way. Some people are surprised by it neutrally, and some people like me think that it actually probably improves the song. It makes the song a little more interesting, and yeah, that's my kind of judgment on the song. It's my winner actually, and I might do kind of a video essay to express why it is my winner, but it'll have to depend on whether I have time for that or not. I'm going to talk about kind of my situation right now at the end of the video, but yeah, that is Czechia with Adonis, and they will be and Adonis will be singing the song Kiss Kiss Goodbye. And yeah, that's about it. Let's move on to a few more national selections. In fact, the three final national selections of the entire season, starting with Melody Festivalen. Now, I would say that this year, Melody Festivalen, or Melfest, according to Eurofans, and Mello by Swedish locals, is nothing short of historic because in this case we had two big favorites in the run up to the final. We had Mons, who was going with the traditional ultra polished pop song and ultra sophisticated staging, going up against Kai, who were bringing a really folksy song, an overly folksy song by mellow standards. But in the end, it was actually Kai who won out, and it was really close, definitely. But unlike our kind of estimations, Kai actually did not do that poorly in the jury vote. In fact, they were only like 2 points lower than Mons in the jury vote, and as soon as we saw that, we realized immediately that yeah, Kai has got this in the bag. Now, in case you didn't follow the previous weeks of Melody Festivalen, you don't need to because Mons and Kai were actually in the same heat. But basically, Mons is just Mons Zimmerler. We know him from Eurovision 2015, and he's returned to Mello 10 years later to basically try to go to Eurovision again. And Kai are a complete newcomer to the national final. They are a group actually from Swedish speaking Finland, but they make songs in Swedish. And actually, it was upon the invitation of Karin, the director of Melfest, that they decided to even take part in the national final at all. They basically took one of their songs, or rather they wrote a song, and then it went through kind of the standard Melfest songwriters like Anders Vretov to kind of go through the song and make it a little bit more palatable to the general audience. And then they decided to sing that song at Melody Festivalen, which was a massive, massive hit. And it was really popular in Sweden for many, many weeks, and in Finland, by the way, and to the point where some Finns don't even know about their actual entry. They only know about the Swedish entry because they're actually Finnish, representing Sweden. But yeah, in the end, like I said, Kai got really popular. Amongst all age groups, I would say, and in the end, they won the televotes, they got second in the jury, and a historic win has been achieved in Melody Festivalen, where a fun, folky, not so serious song won against the ultra polished pop song. Since the contest, Mons has had several allegations laid out against him. I shall not mention those here, and because there's a lot of stuff that's being figured out, I don't really want to comment on any of it until it's been formally kind of confirmed or anything, but there have been allegations laid out against him. But in short, he's probably about to be divorced soon, and yeah, that's that. So I don't really want to comment on it. I don't want to, put words in anyone's mouth. So yeah, that's Mons. So he's going through a lot right now, rightfully or not. But one other name I kind of wanted to mention was John Lundvik. By the way, is it John Lundvik or Jon Lundvik? I never actually found out the correct answer. But yeah, he was very pissed for some reason. He apparently thought that he had a chance of winning this election, even though no one except probably himself considered himself to be a candidate to win the national final. But he said some really, I would call them heat of the moment comments against Kai and against the contest. He was like, the contest is not what I recognize it as anymore, or something like that. And Yeah, so I'm not sure why he thought he was ever in the running to win the contest in general, but yeah, that's Jan Lundvik, and that's also Mons, who has gotten himself into a rather sticky situation. I don't want to comment on who's right, who's wrong, because we still have to go through the due process and everything. But what is definitely happening is that Kai, a Finnish group, are going to be representing Sweden in Eurovision 2025 with a song in Swedish. And as you'll find out from my odds analysis later in the video, I think they're with a pretty good shot of winning the whole thing outright. But we'll get there. So for now, let's move on to Portugal with the national final Festival da Canção. Now, this is another interesting one in that the big favorites did not come anywhere close to winning. But we have a lot of names listed here. We'll talk about the two that are the most interesting first, Henka and Josh. Henka actually won the televote. This was interesting. Some people accused her of rigging the televote. We don't really know if that's true or not, but what is definitely true is that she won the televote. But in contrast, she did not get a single point from the jury, so some people have kind of accused the jury of being out of touch. Regardless, she got 12 points in total, and that landed her, I think, in fifth place, fourth place. I don't know what the tiebreaker is because there were actually three artists who got 12 points, and another one of those was apparently Hanka's good friend, Josh. A lot of people were betting on Josh to win the national final. And it was actually also because of him that Portugal were up to like 8th or even 6th in the odds earlier on. And he had brought a song that was very impactful and yada yada yada. But in the end, he ended up with 12 points in total from the jury and the televote combined, and later results, detailed results posted by the Portuguese broadcaster showed that Josh was nowhere close to winning, and he barely even qualified for the final. So yeah, I guess Josh was never in contention to begin with, but now let's talk about the names above Henka and Josh. We start with Fernando Daniel, who was another one of the favorites in the selection, running up with his song Medu. But yeah, I don't know what to say because I didn't actually watch the national final. But he ended up only third. But the top two are really what's the most interesting here. The first one is Diana Villarinho, and I don't know why my voice was so high there, but Diana Villarinho was actually not really a favorite considered by most people, but in the end, it was revealed that had she gotten just 0.07% more in the televote, she would have won the national final outright. Instead, she didn't. And by the way, if you're curious, I believe 0.07% of the televote, I believe, is around 84 votes or something like that. So yeah. But she didn't get that, so she came second in the national final. And the winner was actually Napa, a group who came with a song called Deslugado. And the song is actually very interesting. It talks about basically people being displaced because they had to leave their towns and cities to go to bigger places for work or school or something like that. And I've been told that this song had actually gone viral amongst Portuguese students, especially university students in Portugal. And actually, after the song won the national final, it actually gained virality even in countries outside of Portugal, especially in Luxembourg and apparently Switzerland. It makes sense in Luxembourg because Luxembourg has a huge Portuguese population, but yeah, it actually got viral in those countries as well. So I would say, despite being a slower song and perhaps a less interesting song, it's not really DOA. I would say it's actually a really sweet song, and I think it could maybe scrape into to the grand final, maybe 10th place or something like that. I don't really know, but what I do know is that Napa will be representing Portugal in Eurovision 2025 with the song Dish Lugado. So, for the final national final of the night, actually, this was the second to last because Festival de Canção was the one that ended the latest. But San Marino, we had the national final that I don't have the name for because they don't even know the name for it either. Sometimes they say it's called Una Voce per San Marino, sometimes they say it's the San Marino Song Contest, but we don't know what the name is, but what we do know is that the final winner ended up being Gabra Ponte. I know it's probably Gabra Ponte, but I don't know. Gabra Ponte just rolls off the tongue better, you know. But yeah, it's interesting because this song, no one expected it to show up in the national final at all, because they have a system of inviting kind of big artists to take part in the national final. And this song was actually famous for being the theme song of San Remo this year, which was, of course, the Italian selection. And the song is called Tutta l'Italia, which means all of Italy. It's not a really great translation, I don't think. But yeah, the song was actually the kind of theme song of San Remo, and suddenly this showed up in the San Marino national final, and it won. But there wasn't any like kind of public vote or anything like that. It was actually just decided by five guys on the jury. Um, but yeah, it was decided in the end that Gabra Ponte with Tutta l'Italia will represent San Marino. Yes, a song that name checks Italy in the title isn't even representing Italy. But yeah, there are some other names in the national final that I kind of want to briefly talk about. The first one is Teslenko. Um, he was one of the artists for Ukraine, actually, who was shortlisted or maybe longlisted, but he withdrew from the long list, and in the end, he showed up in San Marino, and he actually ended up becoming third place there, which was a great achievement. However, he didn't win. And another artist that people were hyping up and also didn't win was Bessa from Albania, although she was listed from France because apparently she lives in France or something like that. But yeah, Bessa was actually kind of priding herself on her AI generated song or something like that. I haven't listened to it, and I don't think I want to ever. But yeah, in the end, Bessa did not even make the top five at all, even though a lot of us suspected that this will be rigged for her. In the end, she got sixth place, so that's the end of that. And since being selected, Gabra Ponte has actually gone on interviews saying that he's going to take this seriously and he's actually going to revamp the whole concept of the staging and everything to see if they can qualify in Eurovision. But we'll just have to see what happens. I believe San Marino is actually in the same semifinal as Italy, so Italy can vote for San Marino. We'll just have to see whether that's enough to get them across the line or whether they'll just continue to not qualify like the several years before then. So that is all of the national finals of Eurovision 2025 season. Moving on to the last few internal selections. First off, we have Theo Evans for Cyprus. I meant Theo Evan. It's a really confusing thing. I wrote in this PowerPoint slide here Theo Evan apostrophe S because his artist last name is actually Evan with no S. So it's really confusing. But I believe he is Greek, and I think Evan here is a short form of like Evangelinos or something like that. But yeah, Theo Evan, no S. I must I must resist the temptation to say the S at the end. But Theo Evan is representing Cyprus with his song that was revealed quite recently and is called Shh. I don't know how you're even supposed to pronounce that, but one bit of fun trivia for you: that is a song title with no vowels in it. In fact, it only has consonants, and it might be the first song to do that in Eurovision history. I don't know that for sure, and I can't be bothered to go back and check. So, if anyone wants to go back and check, be my guest. But this is nonetheless a song title that does not have any vowels in it. So, yeah, that's interesting. The song itself, less so, perhaps. I mean, one of the lines talks about him being blonde when he's very clearly a brunette. So, yeah, this song clearly was not written for him. But regardless, we move, and that's Cyprus with the song Shh for sung by Theo Evan with no S. So, yeah, from one internal selection, let's move on to another one. That's Georgia. Georgia have selected, or rather, the Georgian broadcaster has selected Mariam Shangelia with the song Freedom, which is quite ironic because despite this English title, the song is actually in Georgian. And this selection has been particularly shady. There's been one other name that's been constantly mentioned in relation to the selection, and that is Nini Iris with the song called Release Me. Um, and actually, there were rumors that Nini Iris had already been selected by the broadcaster several months ago, but from request of the national government, they had to select Mariam Shangelia instead, who is a lot more supportive of the current ruling party in Georgia, and she was singing this song that is basically a nothing burger of generic pro peace lyrics. I listened to a tiny bit of the song. I can't even be bothered to listen to the whole thing, and it really just sounds like two songs are laid on top of each other. Um, it just does not. It just does not come together well, and that's just my opinion, of course. But yeah, that's Georgia. I'm not really gonna say much else. Let's move on to the final song reveal of the entire season, and that is France with Luan singing the song Maman. Now, the reveal of the song was really glamorous, I would say. This was done in the Stade de France during the halftime of the Six Nations match between Scotland and France. I think it was rugby. I couldn't tell you the sport that was actually being played there, but yeah, during the halftime, Luan was raised onto this platform in the middle of the pitch, and she sang in live the song that she will represent France with in Eurovision 2025, which is called Maman. And Maman in French literally translates to mom, and it's basically an ode to her mother, who always wanted her to go to Eurovision, but her mother died when she was like 15 or something like that. And so this is basically a song for her, and that's basically the song she's going to bring to Eurovision 2025. And by some estimates of fans, it could even win the whole contest. I'm not so sure about that, but if I get the chance, I'll talk about who I think could win. But for now, I'm not going to do that. This is just the basic news for the stuff that happened. And what did happen was that the French song for Eurovision 2025 was revealed, and it's Maman being sung by Luan. But of course, that's not the end of the story. We also had Malta change the name of their song from Cons to Serving, because it was reported that they were ordered to do this by the EBU, as one of the broadcasters, it's suspected to be the BBC, had actually complained to the EBU about the title of the song. And from what I understand, they're trying really hard to fight against this appeal. Basically, right now, what they've done is, instead of saying do re mi fa so sa serving cunt, it's been changed to do re mi fa so sa serving basically. And personally, I actually find that more interesting to sing along to, but maybe that's just me. I think the original is a lot more interesting in terms of kind of lyrical value because, like I mentioned in the previous episodes, the word cunt in Maltese actually just means singing. Um, Even though it has that same connotation as a certain English phrase, what it means at its core is just a Maltese word for singing, basically. So yeah, it's unfortunate that they had to change it, and hopefully they'll be able to actually sing that word on stage. But if not, I'm sure we'll get something like Latvia 2022, where the audience will shout the word out. But we'll just have to see what happens. So that's one of the changes that happened to the songs. We also had revamps coming from Montenegro, Ukraine, Spain, Luxembourg, and Armenia. And of those, I would say the biggest is probably Spain, but I don't know that for sure. But the others basically they've changed around and or added some instruments, but nothing particularly major. They have changed Esa Diva a little bit as well for Spain. So yeah, I would say that's probably the most major revamp of all of them. But yeah, there's been a few revamps. A lot, all of them have been released before the deadline of the head of delegations meeting, which took place mid this month. And at that meeting, we had the changes in the reference group, but we also had the draw for the running order slot of the host country in the grand final, in this case Switzerland. And they actually drew a really good spot. They drew 19th place, which historically hasn't necessarily given us winners per se, but a lot of the countries in the 19th slot or thereabouts have been at least in the top 10, if not top 5. So yeah, it's actually a pretty good slot. I hope it just doesn't get sandwiched by two massive favorites like I don't know, Finland and Sweden or something like that. But yeah, for the grand final, we now know that Switzerland will be performing in the 19th position, and like I mentioned earlier, at that meeting, we also had some changes to the reference group. Several new names were elected to the reference group, and the most notable change is that Maria Eva Bordes, I think that's her name, from the Spanish delegation has been elected as the head of the reference group, which understandably does not particularly go well with most Spaniards because she's widely regarded. Oh, sorry, Ana Maria Bordes. She's widely regarded as having brought Spain's poorer results as of late. But yeah, she's been elected as the new head of the reference group, and this change in the reference group has also drawn criticism because, according to ESC Discord, they have learned that of the names that were up for election, only the Western European ones were selected, and instead we actually also had some other names that were up for election, like those from like the head of delegations of Armenia, of Croatia, and also Vladana from Montenegro, who isn't even the head of delegation. So yeah, those names could have been in the reference group, but unfortunately, they just weren't selected, and this again it led to criticism about how the contest is being too Western European centric. So yeah, that's unfortunate. Hopefully we'll see something change for the better in that regard. But for now, staying on the topic of Spain, it was announced recently that the Spanish spokesperson for the 12 points in the final will be none other than Chanel. Yeah, there's really not much to talk about there, but I have to say they have fumbled Chanel's career so hard. She's clearly very, very capable of singing and dancing and doing all that kind of diva stuff, but because of the selections of a few select actions of a few individuals, what could have been a bright career for her in Spain and beyond just faded away into nothing, and just occasional appearances at Eurovision related events, and yeah, it's unfortunate. Moving on, but staying on the topic of Spain, it was announced actually that the Barcelona Eurovision party was cancelled. Now, this is obviously unfortunate, but it is understood that basically they couldn't find a location, and they are also the same team that do some other kind of Eurovision related events throughout the year, and this time they just kind of ran out of money basically. So yeah, in this case they had to cancel the Barcelona Eurovision party, and they've said that they wanted to return next year, but I did not know last year while I was going. I still can't believe I went, but I can't believe, I can't believe also that having gone last year, that this year there wouldn't even be that pre-party at all. But yeah, that's one national, sorry, not national final. That's one Eurovision pre-party that was cancelled. Now let's talk very quickly about one that was not cancelled, which was the Nordic Eurovision party. Um, where we really started seeing some of the artists kind of interact with one another, and I think some of the highlights are basically Vibe interacting with Kyle, or Vibe from Iceland interacting with Kyle from Norway, and also with, unbelievably, Skodra Electronica from Albania. And they actually got Kole, the old bald guy, to actually put on Vibe's glasses, which was really cool. But there were also many other kind of interactions as well, which were really interesting, and we're going to get more of those when I cover the What's Next section. But yes, this is the first official pre-party of the season, unless you count the Melfest weekend, which is a little bit more iffy. But again, we'll talk more about pre-parties later, but for now we had the Nordic Eurovision party, which took place in Oslo. And we actually, in during that pre-party, also had the first performance of Voyage from Zoe Me. It was her first live performance of the song just in general, but in this case, it was at the pre-party, and she actually interacted. Zoe interacted with a lot of the artists as well, like Kyle, for example. Um, but yeah, it was a fun time for all. But yeah, moving on. The final thing that really happened was that we had a few more music videos, some of which were actually just the national final performances, and we also had more artists going to Switzerland to film postcards. So um, this implies that the postcards are probably going to take place within Switzerland. Um, it's not clear whether there's kind of a home country component as well, but what we do know is that there will be at least part of the postcard that will be taking place in Switzerland, which we do appreciate. We're just going back to the basics essentially. So that's really about it in terms of news, except for one big thing that I'll cover after we talk about the odds. Alright, so here are the Eurovision 2025 winning odds as of late March. I have to say that again, winning odds. So if there's some countries here that you think might do well, they're probably not being betted on because people don't think they'll win. So keep that in mind before you make any more comments. So starting from the bottom, we have Montenegro. They pretty much have not changed in position since last time I recorded the video, and yeah, it makes sense. No one's really gonna vote for Montenegro to win Eurovision. I would love to see it in Kotor, but they can't really host it there. I've been to Kotor; it's not a very big city. So yeah, it's not surprising that it's that low, but I do hope that they can qualify. Same goes for Iceland, which is right above them. They've actually gone down two, which is kind of sad. Um, Despite Vibe's whole YouTube channel thing, they haven't really gone up in the odds. They actually came down two places from last time I checked. Um, they were down two places. They were 34th, and they were telling kind of subscribers to bet on them so that they could be higher in the odds. But no, they've actually gone the other way, which is unfortunate. But then after that, we have Croatia, which has actually dropped 5 places since the last time I recorded video. I'm actually on my other screen, or just really on my phone. I'm looking at the odds that I actually reviewed in the last episode. They've actually gone down 5 after selecting Marco Bosniak. Again, it's not really a song that's going to win Eurovision, let's just be honest, but the challenge is whether they can qualify, and right now that's kind of shaky. I wouldn't say they're definitely not qualifying, but it would definitely be challenging, let's just say. Above them is their neighbor, Serbia. And Serbia has dropped. They haven't dropped actually. They've actually gone up too, which is quite interesting. But that was also taken before Prince was selected. But nonetheless, we're down here so low that honestly, talking about placement changes is kind of unproductive, because it's not going to change anything. None of these countries are going to win Eurovision anyways, and that also goes for countries like Luxembourg, which has dropped 1 place from last time I did a video. And yeah, the revamp clearly didn't change much, both in terms of actual content of the song and in terms of public perception of the song. And yeah, so it's not really surprising. For a lot of these, I'm just gonna start skipping them if there's really not much to talk about, except for things that have dropped a lot or gone up a lot. For example, Georgia. Georgia was actually at 24th when I did my previous video, but they've now dropped 6 places. And I would say it's not hard to see why. And yeah, that's really about it. And then Spain, interestingly, has gone up 7 places. So maybe it's not going to tank as poorly as we think, but we'll see what happens. Denmark has gone down to Slovenia, interestingly, has gone up by 6. So maybe people think that Slovenia could qualify. I don't really know. I'm going to go check the semifinal qualifying odds in a bit, but yeah, they've actually gone up 6 places. I'm not really sure how that came to be. And then yeah, moving up, Norway, they've gone up by 3 places compared to my previous video. Poland has gone nowhere, apparently. They have stayed in the exact same position. Switzerland, interestingly, has actually gone up 4 places, and I think that's definitely a positive response to the song, but I do think it could probably go higher. As can Germany, I think. They've actually stayed at 21st place compared to my previous video. They've actually stayed in 21st place even though an entire song was selected. Ireland has gone down by 1. Lithuania, which was 18th when I did my previous video, have actually gone up to 16th. It's not a very major difference, but you get the idea. And I would say, actually, let's just keep going up here. Australia and Greece. Australia has gone down by a lot. They were actually up to 10th with Milkshake Man already selected, while Greece was actually at 21st. So actually, Greece has gone up a little. Australia has gone down a lot. I'm not quite sure why. But Lithuania has gone up, as I mentioned earlier. They've gone up by 2. San Marino's also gone up by 2. Czechia, to my surprise, actually, has gone down by a whole 7 places as well, same as Australia. I'm not really sure why. I would guess it's just a lack of hype surrounding it, but I would say wait till the rehearsals. I think this really has great potential. It's my winner for a reason. But yeah, Czechia has actually gone down in the odds. I'm not really sure why. It's just my personal opinion, obviously. But above them is the UK, which is interesting. I think it is a good time now to mention that a lot of these betters are actually from are based in the UK and Ireland, so people from those countries are probably more likely to bet on their own countries. So maybe that's why the UK is so high. But yeah, they have claimed the staging team have claims that they are trying to win Eurovision, which good luck with that. But yeah, that is the UK at 13th place. They've gone up 3 compared to the previous video. Above them we have Italy, which has gone up 3 as well, even though the song isn't changed whatsoever. Malta has gone up by 1. There's not a major change there. Ukraine has gone up by 4, which I think is interesting. And above them, we have Albania, which is, I think, the biggest change of the entire thing, because previously they were 20th place, but now they are up to 9th. And if you followed Eurovision in previous years, you'll know that Albania always outperforms the odds. They always get underrated in like qualification odds, and somehow they managed to make it. And in this case, they are predicted to get 9th place according to this winning thing. So yeah, I think there definitely is a hype surrounding Albania, and I think people are really coming to terms with the fact that Albania this year is coming with a song that's, stronger than what they usually come with, let's just say. So yeah, they've actually gone up 11 places, which I would say is definitely a success story. And then above them, we have Belgium. I think the hype has pretty much died off by now, but they are still in the top 10. They've actually gone up by 1. And I think that gap is probably Czechia right there. And after that, or rather above them, we have Estonia, who interestingly have gone down by 3. So yeah, some people, I guess, aren't feeling as enthusiastic about Tommy Cash. I don't think they were ever in contention to win to begin with, so I don't know why people are betting on them, but whatever. Above them, we have Finland, which is interesting because Finland was also above Estonia in my previous video. So they were actually as high as 3rd place, but they've now gone down 3 places, which I find kind of strange. And what I find even more strange is Netherlands being above them, because the Netherlands has brought a credible entry for sure, but compared to the last episode, they have gone up by 6 places. I'm not really sure how that happened. I honestly cannot see the Netherlands winning Eurovision 2025 at all, but maybe I'm just in my own sort of vacuum. Maybe some of you will see something that I don't, but yeah, that's just my kind of point of view right now. But the Netherlands is 5th in the odds for some reason. Moving into the top 3, we have France with Luan and Maman. This is actually down 1 spot, which is interesting. They're down from 2nd place with 10%, but obviously now they've actually got 11%, as people start betting on them more and more. But another country that has been bet on more and more is Austria, which in the previous episode was 5th in the odds with 5% winning chance, but now they're up to 22%, which is almost at the 1st place as well, which is still Sweden with Kai and Barabara Bastu. And their winning chance has gone up by 3% compared to my previous episode. And honestly, I think they can do it. I hopefully want to do a whole kind of potential winners video, but in case that doesn't happen, I would say actually, compared to all of the other potential winner discussions, I would say the counter argument against Kai not winning is the weakest, if that makes sense. Like for each of them, I think you can form a credible argument about why they can't win Eurovision or why they won't win Eurovision. Um, and personally, if you ask me, the counter argument against Sweden is probably the weakest one because, as we saw in Melody Festival, they had actually a really, really good jury score as well. Now, I know that the jury in Melfest is different to the jury at Eurovision, but what Sweden will undoubtedly bring to the contest is quality and consistency. They will bring a really, really slick staging. But in this case, it's kind of a best of both worlds because Barabarabastu has that same essence of getting a really, really high televote score with its folky funness and catchiness. Again, I really like comparing it to a Treniretul from Moldova. It's that kind of fun, folky catchiness that just makes everyone want to dance to the song. And I think that combine this fun folkiness in the high televote with a really slick, really professional production that we expect of Sweden, and we could be looking at a really really respectable score in both the jury and the televote, and that alone could be enough to bring Sweden their 8th win in the contest. So, yeah, of all of the kind of countries that are in the discussion to win, which is, I would say, most of these countries, plus, in my opinion, my possibly biased opinion, Czechia, but of all the countries in contention to win, I would say the counter argument against Sweden winning is probably the weakest, and that's why I think at this very moment anyway, it's still a good idea, I think, to bet on Sweden either to win or to just do very well. Top 3 probably, I think, is absolutely inevitable, I might say. So, yeah, that is the winning odds. Now let's take a look at the top 10 odds. You can see here, it's actually a little bit different to what you would expect. Like Italy is actually in the top 10, even though they are nowhere near the top 10 in the winner odds. So that's something that's there, I guess. I know there's fewer bettors to offer this bet, but yeah, I would say I'm not going to give betting advice because I don't do that kind of stuff, but I would say that Italy being top 10 is actually kind of a surprise personally. I would more envision them maybe top 15 personally. And I'm still really confused by the prospect of the Netherlands doing like top 3 or whatever. But maybe that's just me. Maybe I'm just in this kind of bubble of just not getting the song, or the song just doesn't resonate with me, as it were. So yeah, we'll have to see what happens, but these odds are certainly surprising to me. Like, for example, why is Switzerland so much higher than it is in the winner odds? I couldn't tell you. But yeah, I'm not going to go through these in detail because this is a much more limited pool, and I think this far out from the contest, I don't know if there's much of a point in discussing who's going to come top 10, who's going to come top 5, best Nordic, best Balkan, actually meant best Baltic. I'm pretty sure they don't actually provide odds for best Balkan, or do they? I don't even know. But yeah, those kinds of odds are, I think we are way too far out from the contest to really start talking about this stuff. So yeah, those are the top 10 odds. So now let's look at the semifinal odds. We don't have qualification odds yet, apparently. These are winning the semifinal. And for semifinal 1, yeah, I think that's fair, actually. I think Sweden is absolutely winning it. It's just a really televote-friendly song, so it's hard really for me to see anyone else in the semifinal winning. But yeah, again, keep in mind these are winning odds; these aren't qualification odds. So yeah, I think it would be better to not treat these as qualification odds. I think, particularly Portugal and maybe Iceland, I think still have a chance of breaking into the top 10. Um, and I strongly suspect that either Belgium or Cyprus is going to make it, but not both. So we'll have to see what happens. And on the second semifinal, it's a similar story. Again, it's a winning odds conversation. So I think there's no point really talking about there's no point really treating these as the winning or rather the qualification odds. So yeah, that's really gonna do it for my odds review as of late March. And yeah, right now you can see our top three are France, Austria, and Sweden, with respectively 11%, 22%, and 24% winning chance. And that is going to do it for my odds review as of late March. Now, in the basic information section, there's one really major thing that I didn't mention, and that was the running order of the semifinals that were released quite recently. Now, you can see them here on your screens right now, and I'm not going to go too much into detail here, except I will say, I think opening the show with Iceland is daring, but at the same time, it is probably the best place Iceland could be. Some of these choices are interesting, like Poland for second place in the running order, and also Montenegro in second place. I think that's unfortunate. I think Montenegro is out basically. But yeah, and also I don't understand why Croatia and Serbia are both so late in the running order. But yeah, it is what it is, and I think those are kind of my immediate takeaways from the running order. There obviously there are like winners and losers. I would say Georgia's definitely a loser because it has to go before France, even though you can't vote for France. But yeah, I think I saw someone say like they put France after Georgia to be like this is how it's done, and that might be true, but I don't know that for sure. But yeah, those are kind of my immediate takeaways from the semifinal running orders. And yeah, as you can see there, Italy is performing in the same half as San Marino, and Italy can vote for San Marino, so maybe they will help Tutta l'Italia do a little bit better. And maybe they will qualify for the grand final, but we'll just have to see what happens. I would also say that the Norway Belgium run isn't particularly great for either country, I would say. But again, I would say if either of them qualify, it's going to be one and not both. But we'll just have to see what happens. This is the running order, and it's also got Spain right after Estonia, which is quite curious as well. But yeah, those are my immediate takeaways from the running order, and I have kind of a bad feeling about Finland closing the second semi, because this could imply that Finland gets a worse running order slot in the final. They might get first half, hell, they might open the show. That would be terrible, I would think, in terms of Finland's kind of winning chances, but we'll just have to see what happens. Running order doesn't determine everything. I talked about Serbia being so late in the running order, and obviously, countries late in the running order can still do poorly, like, Triana Park. I can't remember which country that was. I don't know if that was Serbia or Latvia, but yeah, Triana Park was late in the running order, and they didn't qualify either, so yeah, the running order does not determine everything, but these are the running orders for the semifinals of Eurovision 2025, and we'll see if they work against or in favor of some of these countries listed here. For the what's next section, this is probably going to be the shortest one of the series thus far, because at the moment we really only have Eurovision, of course, but we also have the pre-parties, and so far these are the four that I can remember to put on here. We have Eurovision in concert in Amsterdam that's happening actually, I believe, just this weekend, as of recording this, or next weekend. Um, and then roughly a week after that, we have Mankagan. I still don't know how to pronounce it. I think it's supposed to be Mankagan. Um, and if that name sounds familiar, yes, it is hosted by the same people who did the shady AF Malmo Hagen last year that I went to with Via. Um, but yeah, they're back now and they're doing Manchester for some reason, hence Mankagan or Manchagan, because honestly, both pronunciations kind of work with the etymologies. Um, by the way, side note, every time I read Manchego, I just think of the cheese in Spain called Manchego. But that's a story for another day. But yeah, immediately after that, we also have the London Eurovision party. That is, well, in London. Is, I think, also going to be kind of semi-streamed by Wee Blogs. If you follow them, I certainly don't. Um, and then the week after that, we have the only Spanish pre-party this year, which is Pre-Party ES that is happening in Madrid. So yeah, that's really about it for the month of April. I'm sure other things will come up, but nothing that's really, concretely set in stone. There might be, select performances elsewhere in the Eurovision world, but yeah, that's really about it for pre-parties in the month of April. There might be other preparations and such, like I just said, but after that, it's really just Eurovision time. And as we approach that, hopefully, I'll be able to make one more episode, kind of talking about the flow of the week and how things are going to go with regards to, for example, the turquoise carpet and things like that. But in terms of what we know for April specifically, that's really about it. It's mostly pre-parties, and from the pre-parties, people can judge basically how good are the live vocals of the artists. And yeah, that's really about it, since we don't really have national finals and stuff anymore. And yeah, that's really all there is to it. So that is gonna do it for this episode of Rigel's Random Reports. If I sound a little more tired than I did at the start of the video, it's because I started recording at maybe around 2 a.m. and now it's almost 5 a.m. But yeah, after this, I'm gonna go take a shower and go to bed probably, since tomorrow I have classes at uni. And speaking of uni, unfortunately, I'm probably not gonna be able to post much beyond this point. For a while, at least until kind of late April, because I've got a project that I should have started around September, and honestly, I only started doing it like 3 days ago, or rather, I restarted the project like 3 days ago because I felt like I wasn't making progress with the old infrastructure. But yeah, in any case, I've got a project to deal with. I have to hand in a poster on the 11th. Which means I'll have to have designed the basic user interface stuff by then, and then about 10 days later I'll need to hand in my report, which has 50 pages in it that I've got to write, and it's got to like kind of detail all of the processes of the project and stuff like that. So yeah, I've got a lot of stuff that I have to handle in most of April. So yeah, unfortunately, I won't be able to post any videos from now to then. But hopefully, at the end of April, I'll be able to start really getting into sort of the Eurovision mood. But also, it depends on when my exams are going to be. They might take place during Eurovision week. They might be later or before then. I don't really know. The website for the timetables have been down for a while, so yeah, I'll check it when it's up again. But yeah, all this is to say, I'm probably not gonna post much, if at all, in the month of April, unfortunately. Even though I have lots of ideas for content, I just have to focus on my project right now, that I just have to finish this. And get it submitted and things like that. So yeah, no videos in April, unfortunately. Well, other than this, obviously, but yeah, that's gonna be it for this episode of Rigel's Random Reports. Like this video if you enjoyed the episode, and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss upcoming videos, including preview videos for Eurovision 2025, including what are my favorites, who I think can win, um, and also kind of a last minute episode of Rigel's Random Reports, basically detailing what's going to happen during and shortly before Eurovision week, and what we are to expect from that, and what differs from the previous years and stuff like that. But we're talking quite far into the future, and I still got to do this entire project, so subscribe to the channel within the next month or so you don't miss my upcoming content in the run up to Eurovision 2025. Hope you enjoyed, and I'll see you next time.